My name is Mary Brown. I've been working as a receptionist at St. Mary's Regional Hospital in suburban Columbus, Ohio for 8 years now. I'm 38 years old. People often say I have a gentle and reserved personality, but when it comes to my 6-year-old son Jacob, I'm ready to face any challenge. These days, it's just my son and me. But I remember the days with my husband Matthew as clearly as if they were yesterday, even though it's been 10 years since we first met. It was an ordinary spring afternoon. While I was organizing insurance documents at the reception desk, a young man was brought into the emergency room with an injury to his right arm from a construction site accident. That encounter would change my life forever. Matthew Brown was 30 years old at the time. As a construction site supervisor, he was always strict about safety management. That day, he had been checking the scaffolding himself to ensure the safety of new workers when he had a minor fall. "Are you all right?" I asked, and despite wincing in pain, Matthew gave me a gentle smile. "Thank you, but this injury isn't anything serious." The next 2 years of dating were like a dream. Matthew was sincere and always thoughtful of others. On weekends, we enjoyed picnics at the local park and participated in church volunteer activities together. Our wedding was small but heartwarming. We exchanged vows at First Presbyterian Church, surrounded by close friends and family. Matthew's mother, Carol, appeared to bless our marriage and even paid for the ceremony. "Mary, I'm so happy to welcome you as my son's wife." Looking back now, perhaps there was something dark lurking behind Carol's smile that day. But at the time, I couldn't notice it. A year after our marriage, our son Jacob was born. Taking after his father's gentle nature, he showed a particular interest in construction machinery. On holidays, Matthew would often take Jacob to the park near his construction site to watch the heavy equipment from a distance. "Look, Jacob. That's where they're building a new shopping mall. Daddy is helping create a place where everyone can shop safely and happily." Matthew would beam with pride seeing his son's eyes light up. His dream was to own his construction company someday. He worked diligently toward that dream every day. His subordinates trusted him deeply, and his safety management was highly regarded within the company. On weekends, we enjoyed shopping as a family at the local Kroger, attended church on Sundays, and participated in community potluck parties afterward. Those were ordinary days filled with genuine happiness. No one could have imagined that this peaceful daily life would suddenly come to an end. That day started like any other autumn morning. After seeing Jacob off to school, I began my work at the hospital reception. Matthew was supposed to be conducting his usual safety checks at the new shopping mall construction site. Around 2 p.m., the emergency room phone rang with the first report of a serious accident at a construction site. At that point, we didn't even know who the victim was. But an inexplicable anxiety began to spread through my heart. Soon after, the sound of ambulance sirens echoed through the hospital corridors. A nurse colleague rushed to me with a pale face. "Mary, it's Matthew." From that moment, my world began to crumble. According to the site report, after the lunch break, the scaffolding Matthew was inspecting suddenly collapsed. His safety belt had been cut, and he fell from the 14th floor. It was unnatural. Far too unnatural. Matthew was always stringent about safety management. Every morning, he personally checked all safety equipment and required workers to conduct thorough inspections. A scaffolding collapse was unthinkable at his site. There appeared to be cut marks on the safety belt. The police said. But at that time, I didn't even have the capacity to understand what those words meant. Carol was surprisingly calm. "Leave everything to me," she said, efficiently handling everything from funeral arrangements to insurance procedures. She seemed more like a business professional than a mother who had lost her son. Jacob couldn't accept his father's death. "Did Daddy go to work again? When is Daddy coming home? Can't we go to the amusement park like Daddy promised?" Every night, I cried watching my son's sleeping face, feeling lost about how to go on living. Financial reality hit us like a tidal wave. Mortgage payments, Jacob's school fees, daily living expenses. My hospital's salary couldn't possibly cover it all. Matthew's life insurance should have helped, but somehow the paperwork Carol was handling had gone missing. "Don't worry, Mary. Come to my house," Carol suggested. "It doesn't make sense for me to live alone in that big house. And it's close to Jacob's school." That proposal seemed like our only hope, as we were grasping at straws. On moving day, Carol's house in suburban Columbus was an impressive single-family home that exuded wealth. The well-maintained garden was overflowing with seasonal flowers, creating an elegant atmosphere. But Jacob seemed uneasy. "Mommy, are we going to live here?" I squeezed my son's hand tightly as he asked in a small voice. The first signs of something wrong appeared that very day. "Let's put away these photos," Carol said, pointing to our precious pictures of Matthew. "It's better to store away painful memories." After that, my unease grew as Carol rushed to dispose of Matthew's belongings and obsessively checked documents. Particularly disturbing was seeing her searching through piles of papers in Matthew's study late into the night. But at that time, I still didn't understand. This was just the beginning of hell. Strangely, Carol intercepted all communications from the police investigating Matthew's construction site accident. "You focus on overcoming your grief," she would say. At the memorial service at First Presbyterian Church, Carol was the center of sympathetic attention. Everyone praised her. What a strong person, taking care of her daughter-in-law and grandson even after losing her son. However, the moment we left the church, Carol's attitude completely changed. I'll never forget the cold look she gave in the car. Now the real work begins. We would soon learn the meaning of those words. A week after moving into Carol's house, our slave-like existence began. "You're both useless. I won't tolerate freeloaders." We would be woken by Carol's cold voice while it was still dark outside. Even Jacob was forcibly dragged from his bed, his small body trembling. Freeloaders. Work every day. This wasn't just helping with housework. It was systematic abuse, seemingly designed to thoroughly exhaust us. Mornings began with collecting fallen leaves in the garden. In the biting November wind, we would kneel to pick up leaves one by one. Jacob's small hands would freeze. But we weren't allowed to rest. "There are still leaves over there." Carol would watch us constantly from the second-floor window. Mornings were for house cleaning. But this wasn't ordinary cleaning. The same spots, over and over again. No matter how many times I mopped the floor, I would always be ordered to do it again. Matthew's old study, in particular, required an obsessive level of cleanliness. Take all the books out and wipe each spine. Clean the dust from the shelf gaps with cotton swabs. Check between the wall and bookshelf, down to the smallest details. Lunch had to be eaten in 15 minutes. Not in the kitchen, but in a corner of the garage, hurriedly eating cold sandwiches. Warm meals had become a luxury. Afternoons were filled with more gardening and deep cleaning. Moving heavy furniture, pulling up carpets, wiping walls, polishing windows. My arms would shake, my back screaming in pain. That pace is too slow. It's hard enough just feeding you. Without Matthew's income, you should at least do this much. The work didn't end at night. Housework continued until 10 or 11 p.m. Carol was particularly obsessed with organizing the storage room. Open all the boxes and check the contents. Don't throw away any old documents. I need to check them. Be especially careful with photographs. Jacob's behavior began changing day by day. My once bright and active son became quiet at school and stopped playing with friends. His teacher, Mrs. Johnson, called. Recently, Jacob often falls asleep in class. He's also not turning in his homework. I began hearing my son's muffled crying at night more frequently. Seeing him sleep clutching Matthew's photo under the covers broke my heart a little more each time. But we couldn't escape. Carol controlled my bank passbook and monitored my cell phone. Contact with friends and family was restricted. We were essentially under house arrest. Meanwhile, Carol's suspicious behavior became more noticeable. Late at night, sounds of searching in the study. Thin beams of light would leak into the hallway, accompanied by the sound of shuffling papers. Sometimes, I would hear her talking quietly on the phone. "Haven't you found those documents yet?" "Yes, we still have time." During weekdays while I was working at the hospital, Carol apparently made frequent trips to the bank. Our neighbor Susan told me about this. "Carol's been going to First National Bank a lot lately. She seems to stay for hours." Particularly concerning was her obsession with a specific drawer. The locked bottom drawer of the large wooden desk in the study. Carol checked its key every night. One day, when I was cleaning near that drawer, Carol suddenly came running, her face contorted. "Don't touch that." Her voice carried an intensity I'd never heard before. Fear? Panic? Or anger? Then came the decisive incident. One night, Jacob was suffering from a high fever. As I tried to manage with over-the-counter fever medicine, he nearly lost consciousness. "Please, let me take him to the hospital." Carol coldly responded, "I won't allow such waste. It doesn't matter to me if that child dies." At that moment, something changed within me. This wasn't just abuse. It was part of something more terrifying, a larger plan. Matthew's unnatural accident. The missing insurance money. The suspicious late-night phone calls. The bank visits. And whatever was in that drawer. Everything was starting to connect. As the first anniversary of Matthew's death approached, Carol's behavior became increasingly erratic. She became more aggressive than before, shouting over trivial matters. The sound of her late-night phone conversations became more frequent. "We're running out of time. We have to do something before the anniversary." Then Carol began hastily disposing of documents. The sound of the shredder echoed late into the night, and the smell of burning paper wafted from the backyard. Then came the fateful day. The day before Matthew's first death anniversary. As cold rain fell steadily, Carol left saying, "I have business at the bank." Taking this chance, I made the decision to search the study. The thorough cleaning I'd been forced to do would unexpectedly prove useful. Behind the bookshelf was a hidden safe. Usually, an expensive vase sat there, which we were never allowed to move. I reached out and found it. Old newspaper clippings. Wealthy real estate couple dies, son left behind. In the article was a familiar photo of a young boy, Matthew. And underneath, a stack of court documents, adoption records, insurance claim forms, property title transfer procedures. All forged documents in Carol's handwriting. No way. Just then, the doorbell rang. As I hurriedly replaced the documents and started down the stairs, I heard a male voice from outside. Columbus Police Department. Is Caroline Williams here? Then another male voice. Representative from Bradley and Associates law firm. At that moment, I made eye contact with Carol, who had returned through the back door. Why are you? The color drained from her face as her whole body began to shake. We have a warrant. We're entering to conduct a search. Carol tried to run upstairs, but police officers had already entered through the back door. Caroline Williams, you're under arrest on suspicion of fraud and attempted murder. One of the officers approached me. Mrs. Brown, we have something your husband Matthew left with us. He handed me a thick envelope with Matthew's handwriting. If anything happens to me. Your husband actually sensed he was in danger a year ago. He left this envelope with us and the law firm. Inside the envelope were astonishing pieces of evidence. Construction site security camera footage. Carol meeting with workers 2 days before the accident. Cash being handed to the safety equipment inspector. And most shocking of all. These are evidence of adoption fraud, the lawyer explained. For the past 20 years, Carol has repeatedly approached wealthy families, orchestrated fake adoptions, and stolen their assets. Matthew discovered he was one of her victims. Matthew's real parents were wealthy real estate company executives. Carol had targeted Matthew, who was set to inherit a vast fortune after losing his parents in an accident at age 3. The police have spent a year investigating similar cases across multiple states. The same pattern in Chicago, Boston. Just then, we heard a noise from upstairs. There stood Jacob in his pajamas, holding a photograph. A commemorative photo from the construction site that had accidentally captured Carol meeting with the workers in the background. Daddy. Large tears fell from my son's eyes. I ran to him and held him tight. All the pain we had endured came flooding out at once. Outside, the rain had stopped, and the sun was peeking through for the first time in what felt like forever. This was the beginning of the end. And the beginning of our new life. I raised him. He's my son. Carol's screams echoed through the quiet suburban neighborhood as she resisted the police while being handcuffed. 20 years. For 20 years, as my son. In that moment, I felt I saw Carol's true face for the first time. A woman who played the perfect philanthropist while harboring unfathomable darkness inside. Tormented by infertility, she had developed a twisted hatred for wealthy families, eventually willing to take lives. As we watched the police car drive away, Jacob whispered. Daddy protected us, didn't he? I couldn't stop the tears that welled up at those words. As the investigation progressed, the importance of Matthew's evidence became clear. He had noticed Carol's suspicious behavior. The late-night phone calls. Unusual bank transactions. And newspaper articles about past adoptions. He had carefully investigated and recorded everything, entrusting it to a reliable lawyer. Your husband was extremely careful and wise, Bradley, the lawyer, said. If he had confronted her directly, Carol would have destroyed all evidence and possibly harmed your family. That's why he prioritized gathering solid evidence. The truth about Matthew's family inheritance also came to light. This is the detailed list of assets that should rightfully be inherited by your family. The document the lawyer presented showed amounts far beyond our imagination. A house in an upscale neighborhood. Multiple real estate investments. And shares in the construction company Matthew's father had left behind. Matthew knew. He left these materials with us in case anything happened to him. The police investigation revealed the full extent of Carol's crimes. In Chicago, she had deceived a wealthy family's only son. In Boston, she had targeted a real estate tycoon's orphan child. Each time, she posed as an adoptive parent to extract their fortune, staging fake accidents or sudden deaths to collect insurance money. It's a despicable method, the detective couldn't hide his anger. Many of the victims were children. It's the worst kind of crime, exploiting trust. The First Presbyterian Church community warmly supported us. I'm so sorry we didn't know, Susan said tearfully. Behind that elegant demeanor, such horrible things. Church volunteers gathered to help us move to our new home. It was a suburban house that Matthew had secretly purchased, a bright and warm home he had chosen with his son's future in mind. This is the house Daddy chose for us, Jacob. My son's expression began to regain its brightness, little by little. In the study of our new home, Matthew's final gift awaited us. A thick leather-bound album. Inside were numerous letters, photographs, and words for his son from Matthew. To my beloved son. If you're reading this letter, I may no longer be in this world. But I want you to remember this. Daddy is always watching over you. I want you to live a happy life with Mommy. And never forget this. Life sometimes brings great trials. But if you live honestly and sincerely, a path will always open up. With love, Daddy. The album's pages sparkled in the setting sun streaming through the window. On weekends, Jacob began playing with his beloved toy construction equipment in the garden. Sometimes friends would come over, filling the air with cheerful voices. While continuing my work at the hospital, I gradually became involved in managing Matthew's construction company. We want to protect the company, respecting your wishes, ma'am. The veteran employees offered their cooperation. And Matthew's dream of running a safe and honest construction company was surely carried on. In our new home's garden, we planted the type of tree Matthew loved. It's beginning to grow steadily now. When spring comes, it will surely bloom with beautiful flowers. Just like our new life. The bond between mother and son, strengthened through adversity. And the love of a husband who protected us until the very end. All of these will remain forever etched in our hearts as irreplaceable treasures.